Hello everyone, this is Just a Fan of Z. With the new Legend of Zelda game, there have been many speculations as to when and where the events take place in the official timeline, and I wanted to share my thoughts on the issue. Hopefully by looking at the timeline itself, which has had one edition since Skyward Sword: A Link Between Worlds, which is also a direct sequel to A Link to the Past, and along with the evidence provided in the trailers and gameplay, it will shed light on this matter. Although it will probably not be known when these events take place until after the game has been officially released. First, there are 4 time periods that this can take place in. The time period between Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time, the adult timeline where Link returns to the past after defeating Ganon, the child timeline where the child Link is able to warn Zelda and her father of what will happen before Ganondorf can take over, or the failed timeline where Link is defeated and killed by Ganon. So which of the 4 general time periods does Breath of the Wild take place in? Starting by eliminating the impossible, it is impossible for it to be before the events of Ocarina of Time. This is due to the amount of time that has passed in the game Breath of the Wild. Link was put to sleep for a period of 100 years, and it appears that the technology that he interacts with is what remains from that civilization. This technology is more advanced than what Ocarina of Time has shown to us. The age of the Master Sword is also an indicator that these events take place late in the timeline. Next, it is impossible for it to take place after the Great Flood in the adult timeline, as the Hyrule that exists in the following games is not the Hyrule of Ocarina of Time. It has been revealed that the sage Rauru, who was the sage that the hero of Time encountered after waking up from those 7 years, built the Temple of Time to seal away the Triforce within the sacred realm on the land that the bit of Skyloft joined with Hyrule. We can see the temple as well as a statue of Hylia within that temple. The land that Spirit Tracks takes place in is one that was discovered at the end of Phantom Hourglass, called New Hyrule. Could these be remakes or new models in memory of what was left behind, the naysayer might say? After all, the statue is smaller than the one that came from Skyloft. However, there is more evidence to suggest that it takes place in the original Hyrule. A large lake, possibly Lake Hylia, can be seen with a large bridge expanding it, which can be seen in Twilight Princess. Spectacle Mountain, which was in the original Zelda game and is in the original Hyrule, can also be seen, no pun intended. Death Mountain has also been revealed within the world, along with a large desert. These are all landmarks from the original Hyrule and don't exist in New Hyrule after the Great Flood. Could they have come back to this land after the flood recedes? Doubtful, as there is no evidence to suggest within the lore that the flood would recede. And if it was to keep Ganon locked away, and would go away when the threat was gone, which would be the case if the flood would recede, it would have receded immediately after the events of Wind Waker. And what reason would the inhabitants of New Hyrule have for going back to a land they barely know and is now wild when they have a civilization where they are in? But what about the Koroks? Well, the Koroks are the Kokiri, and due to the statement of the Deku Tree, once upon a time, long ago, the Koroks took on human forms, but when they came to live on the sea, they took these shapes. The language seems to suggest that they can change the forms if they so desire, especially as it's easier to hide. Thus, they can exist without being spotted in many of the other games, and can take on this form in other timelines, especially in ones where evil is upon them. What about the rock salt that is said to have come from a great flood? Well, it is possible that it's not the flood of Wind Waker, due to the events of Skyward Sword showing that there was another time when the desert of Hyrule being underwater or a long-lasting flood. What about before the Great Flood then? Again, it is impossible as the events that caused the Great Flood happened 100 years after the events of Ocarina of Time. What about the child timeline? It seems unlikely due to the events in Twilight Princess. Ganondorf is not just defeated, but killed, it appears. He wasn't sealed away, thus leaving the only other alternative, death. Now, while it is true that we see Ganondorf coming back from being sealed, we never see him being truly resurrected. I'll talk about Zelda 2 and Oracle Seasons in a moment. This suggests that when he dies, he is gone for good. If this theory is true, which will be tested in a moment, this prevents the events taking place after Twilight Princess, and they can't take place before due to Twilight Princess taking place 100 years after Ocarina of Time. As for the defeated timeline, this is where we find our resurrected Ganon. First, we see it in the Oracle of Seasons/Ages hidden ending. However, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. First, Ganon, in A Link to the Past, was killed in the Dark World, formerly the Sacred Realm. Very little is known exactly about this realm, but one thing that is known is that individuals can live for a long time in that realm. Otherwise, Ganon couldn't escape from it 100 years later to cause the destruction that is seen in the events that led up to Wind Waker. Maybe it's even impossible to 100% kill someone in there. One may defeat and weaken an individual, but not kill. To continue with this theory, in A Link Between Worlds, Link gets a vision of Ganon threatening to come back. Ganon still lived after the events of A Link to the Past. He wasn't killed. In the game Oracle of Seasons, the witches Twinrova referred to the death of Zelda and her body as being a vessel for something to possess. They were trying to call not the body of Ganon, which was trapped in the Sacred Realm, but to pull his spirit from his body trapped there and have it possess another. The player is left to believe that the ritual was corrupted in some way, which is why Ganon is mindless. However, what if the ritual didn't fail? What if that's what would have happened anyways, even with Zelda becoming the vessel? Due to the shock of the soul being torn from a body, put into a new one, and that new body going through a physical change to represent the power contained within that soul. There is a hint of this in Ocarina of Time. Ganondorf transforms into Ganon, and his personality becomes more aggressive and beast-like. It's destructive, almost mindless. This is in contrast to Twilight Princess, where Ganondorf has learned how to control that transformation, after learning how to use his power over a period of 100 years. As for Zelda 2, the player is told the minions of Ganon are trying to use the blood of Link to resurrect the body of Ganon. When the player dies, the outline of Ganon appears and is heard laughing with the game over screen. However, there are two possibilities. This is the last thought of Link as he dies, which is what he fears will happen, as a true resurrection hasn't been shown to happen within the lore yet. Or, Link's body ends up becoming the new vessel for Ganon. Many of you are probably thinking, this is all very interesting, but you still haven't answered when the game takes place. Well, I know it has to take place within the deleted hero timeline. The events of what we have seen from Breath of the Wild shows us that this is after a great destruction of the civilization. This leads me to believe that the game takes place after the events of A Link Between Worlds, as no word of Hyrule being destroyed is mentioned, but rather is threatened to be. This would also explain why the world looks so barren in the original Legend of Zelda game, with those events taking place after the events of Breath of the Wild. And because Oracle of Ages and Seasons take place on another land, when they take place isn't necessary. But I suspect they take place before the events of Breath of the Wild. The hero defeats Ganon, but due to the ritual, his spirit is left free, eventually forming into Calamity Ganon and returning to the place that has denied his quest for power. I believe I covered everything of importance. Let me know if you think I missed anything.